So, welcome to another episode of Ask Crystal, where I allow my patrons to ask a question and I make a video about it. So, this week we have a really good question about oral sex, being on the receiving end as a man, and it was a little bit vulnerable. And so, I think this is great, and I'm thankful for that. And I wanted to share and answer this question in a video because I think it can be helpful to a lot of men. It also aligns with the topic that I discussed last week about dehumanizing men's sexuality, which I will talk more about after I share the question and answer it. So he asks, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I think that he meant to say some things that he didn't actually write out. So it says, I can't seem to orgasm from oral sex. Could that be because I'm disconnected from my body? Like, I never have been able to actually receive that pleasure from somebody giving me oral sex. I'm not trying to come off as too sexual or anything. I just really want to know. So, thank you for that question. It's a very good question. And my first thought is it's not so much that you're just so disconnected from your body. Being able to receive pleasure, especially in a very intimate way, because even though men get an ego trip, or women, men and women get ego trips off of receiving pleasurable or pleasure orally, it's still a very vulnerable thing to receive. You have to be comfortable with allowing somebody to put their mouths on a very private area of your body. We are taught that our bodies are nasty, and especially our private areas are meant to be covered. There's just a lot of shame and stuff. But if you think about it, that really is some of the most sacred parts of our body. Not just because it creates children, but it's also a very sensitive area. It's an area that we have to really protect. So if you allow yourself to be completely open in a very sensitive area and put their mouth down there where we eat and chop on things, that's actually a very vulnerable place to be. If you take care of yourself and you clean yourself, your genitals actually are probably a lot more sanitary than your mouth is, because your mouth is constantly exposed to the outside world, even just eating and putting your hands near your mouth or whatever. So, and again, your genitals are a lot more sensitive. It's a private area. So it requires a lot of vulnerability. With that said, depending on how you feel about that very sensitive area of your body is going to determine how you receive pleasure from that area of your body. If you carry a lot of shame or fear or misunderstandings about the part of your body, and thinking about how somebody else might feel or how the world or society feels about that part of your body, you might not think that you have a right to enjoy it or be pleased by it. And that is a disconnection from your body. So I do think that you're right on with that. But the cause of that oftentimes is people internalizing what social constructs and the things that we're taught through purity culture and religious trauma that kind of freezes us up and doesn't allow us to relax and actually enjoy the experience. And this goes into my topic specifically about dehumanizing men's sexuality. I talked about this topic because there was another topic on TikTok that was going viral about biphobia, especially in the Black community, around bisexual men and straight women. And the discussion was about, is it biphobic for a straight woman to not want to date a bisexual man, and that being the only reason why she doesn't want to date him? And I said the bigger conversation that needs to be happening, especially among straight people and straight women, is if we see a man's sexuality as disgusting, perverse, or nasty just because that actually dehumanizes men, because your sexuality is not something that you can really change. If it's authentic to who you are, what it naturally arouses you, the way God made you, if that makes you perverse or nasty, or it's seen as something as a negative, to where it discredits your character or makes people think you're going to give them an STI or think you're going to cheat or, just judge you unfairly simply because you naturally are aroused in a certain way, that's dehumanizing, because when people judge you unfairly because of something that happens just through your actual nature, then it gives them a right or justifies a reason to treat you poorly because they don't see you as human as them, or they don't see you as equal as them. And that's the same oppressive systems that a lot of times women talk about with toxic patriarchy. And if you treat men in an inhumane way, then can you expect them to act human-like, being kind, compassionate, being empathetic, being able to express their emotions, being emotionally intelligent? If you don't treat them or give them the right or make them feel safe enough to express those sides of themselves. It's a systemic problem, but it's also a problem that a lot of women uphold, especially straight women. And a lot of times they do this because they feel their femininity depends on the type of masculine man that they can get. A lot of times women feel validated by dating a certain type of man, but their desire to date these men is not in love or attraction. It's more in how it makes them look. And so they're essentially using the man, again, dehumanizing them, using them as a product, using them as like they're some type of pet or something to build their ego up. And that just creates, a lot of issues and dysfunction. And it's also manipulative and controlling. I don't think women always realize they're doing this, but that's the problem with the biphobia, is that it dehumanizes men and it doesn't allow them to actually be human. And I'm sure most men suffer from this in some kind of way because men are not taught that their penises are beautiful or their testicles are beautiful and they deserve love, care, and tenderness, and it's sacred. Most of the time what we hear about men's sexuality is it's perverse, it's pedophilic, it's violent, it's aggressive, it's the reason why, women have STIs and why they're traumatized and why they get abused, and it's uncontrollable and it's just outlandish. But then at the same time, everybody wants a masculine man. Everybody wants that primal masculine energy. But the way that they're defining it is usually in a very small box, but it's the same box that's creating all the dysfunction of aggression and violence because you're dehumanizing the parts of them that would actually be more feminine or more emotionally expressive, right? And so it's just like a bad cycle, and it's actually just a lot of ignorance. But a lot of times men are getting these subliminal messages all the time, and they're internalizing the things that they're hearing. So when it comes to having sex or when they're in the intimate act, they're all the subconscious and unconscious feelings around their body are those programs are sitting in their body. And so they can't fully relax because they're unconsciously or consciously thinking about those things. If a woman is giving you oral pleasure and she wants you to come, semen or ejaculation is a very intimate thing. It's a very intimate part of a man's body. And if you're not on an ego trip, like most men who do that and want to ejaculate in a woman's face or in her mouth or whatever, then you're on the other end and you really want to, if you're feeling insecure because of all the messages you're getting, it's going to be hard for you to release. I also think that this also leads into a conversation about how sometimes men get shamed for not lasting long enough, for not being hard enough, or not being good lovers. But again, if you can't express your emotional side, if you're constantly being taught that, when you have sex with women, you are affecting their purity and, emotionally, you taint her for whoever she's going to get married to, or you are the problem, your body is the problem, your sexuality is the problem. Or you get with a woman who uses these messages to shame you, again, about not lasting long enough or being able to hold erection or not being able to be a good lover, then how are you supposed to become a good lover, right? It's just a bad cycle. And a lot of men internalize these messages, and because of social media, and because there's not a lot of empathy for men and everybody's always talking about toxic patriarchy, there's not a lot of support to say hey, what about the man's feelings? Hey, this is having an effect on them too. Hey, not every man wants to be this aggressive, violent, toxic person. And then you're shamed for if you don't know what to do. And it's like, how are you supposed to be a good lover if you are constantly being shamed? And then on top of that, a woman has the ability to shame a man and say like very hardcore things because everybody's talking about toxic patriarchy. So there's a lot of more sympathy for women and the trauma that they go through, but there's not hardly any sympathy for men around their sexuality and around their bodies and what they go through. Especially after the Me Too movement and all the female empowerment stuff. And female empowerment is important, and we need to support people that who've gone through trauma, women and men, but especially women and children, right? However, men did not get the way that they are as a collective, for nothing. And then the men that are trying to do the right thing often do still get shamed because of women that have been hurt from the past. And so they get with men that they feel safe with. And the minute that there's a problem in intimate life, because they don't want to be the problem, because they need validation, they will project those insecurities onto the man. And whether you're going through this or whether you're seeing this through social media, through regular media, on TV, through the news, it affects you as a man. And this is actually why I really would love to share a documentary on Patreon called Private Dicks that I discovered on YouTube. And I probably will share it. You can let me know in the comments if you want to see it. Essentially, it's a documentary about men and their penises and their sexuality. And it's all types of men, heterosexual men, trans men, men who have been paralyzed, men with different sized penises, micro penises, large penises, even I think there's an adult entertainer on there, and they show their full bodies, not all of them, but some of them, but they talk about their relationship with their penises, the things that they've gone through. And I love the documentary because it humanizes men's sexuality. And I really want to share it. I just don't want you guys to get scared and get biphobic or homophobic on me. But I do think I'm going to share it this week. Give me some feedback in the comments if you would like to see it. I think it can be very healing to see men in their innocence, different ages, different sizes, different backgrounds, economic backgrounds, even men who have struggled with things like testicular cancer and ED and PE, men in college at the beginning of their journey and then at the end of their journey. Like, it's just a very beautiful documentary and a way of looking at men and their sexuality in real life, not in some type of divine ancient way, God-like, animation, but just like real men. I think we need more media that way. So I will be sharing that. But to the men who answered this question, asked this question, and to any men who may be going through this, where they're having a hard time releasing or receiving oral pleasure, yes, there probably is a disconnection with your body, but you also might be with a partner that doesn't make you feel emotionally safe. If you have a partner that is constantly criticizing your body or the way that you do things, or saying that she can't receive pleasure from you, or just says little things that kind of trigger you and don't make you feel safe, that can affect, your nervous system not being able to relax and actually let go. Sometimes it's not, a lot of times I would say it's not the body that's the problem. It is the environment. It's the messages that you've been sent. And you have to remove yourself out of those environments, away from those people, and take the time to love on yourself, pick out these, outdated programming that's preventing you from really enjoying yourself, and then create an inner compass that allows you to reconnect with your body, feel confident, know that you deserve pleasure, and pick better situations and people to share yourself with. So I hope I answered the question, and I hope that you all got a lot out of me answering the question. If you would like to be a part of Ask Crystal and ask me a question, you can join my Patreon family and you can ask me a question on there and I will make a video. If you would like to see the documentary that I will be posting in the next couple of days, join my Patreon. I'm working on another series about lovemaking. It's going to be called an reintroduction to sex, I think I'm going to call it. That's coming up, but there's a lot of good stuff on Patreon. Think about joining. And I will see you guys in the next video.